Wave hi to all your classmates. All right.
Hi guys.
Okay, so yesterday, what you should have on your paper. Yesterday we talked about how many of the characters?
4.
5.
1. We talked about Gandalf, right? There's 5 of them. We only talked about Gandalf because they just briefly mentioned the other ones, right?
Oh, yeah.
So far we're having a party. We get to the party. He makes it all weird, right? Because he starts saying weird stuff, and then he does what? Disappears.
Hold on, we didn't get to that.
Yes, you
our
did.
class didn't get there.
I
We
promise
got when
that
you
you did.
finish standing outside.
Okay.
Wizard.
So what happens is he's got all the fireworks, right? And then he's standing up there talking about how he likes all of them, but he's got to go away for a while. And then I've got to go away, and this is the end. Goodbye. And then just disappears, right? So after he disappears, they don't know where he is. They're from the Shire. They're simple people. They don't see a lot of magic stuff, so they have no idea where he's going. They're confused, right? And they're kind of talking crap about him because he vanished and he's weird. They're all telling he's weird, right? Saying he's weird. Okay, so that's all that's happened so far, and I think most of you have it written down.
I know.
We'll talk about it later. Frodo was the only one present who had said nothing. For some time he had sat silent beside Bilbo's empty chair and ignored all remarks and questions. He had enjoyed the joke, of course, even though he had been in the know. He had difficulty in keeping from laughter at the indignant surprise of the guests, but at the same time he felt deeply troubled. He realized suddenly that he loved the old hobbit dearly. Most of the guests went on eating and drinking and discussing Bilbo's oddities, past and present, but the Sackville Bagginses had already departed in wrath. Frodo did not want to have any more to do with the party. He gave orders for more wine to be served, then he got up and drained his own glass, silently to the health of Bilbo, and slipped out of the pavilion. As for Bilbo, even while he was making his speech, he had been fingering the golden ring in his pocket. Remember how it said his hands were in his trousers? That's what he was doing, kind of making sure he still had it there. As he stepped down, he slipped it on his finger, and he was never seen by any hobbit in Hobbiton again. He walked briskly back to his hole and stood for a moment listening with a smile to the din in the pavilion and to the sounds of merrymaking in other parts of the field. Then he went in. He took off his party clothes, folded and wrapped in tissue paper his embroidered silk waistcoat, and put it away. Then he put on quickly some old untidy garments and fastened around his waist a worn leather belt. On it hung a short sword in a battered black leather scabbard. From a locked drawer, smelling of mothballs, he took out an old cloak and hood. They had been locked up as if they were very precious, but they were so patched and weather-stained that their original color could hardly be guessed. It might have been dark green. They were rather too large for him. He then went into his study and from a large, strong box took out a bundle wrapped in old cloths and a leather-bound manuscript and also a large, bulky envelope. The book and bundle he stuffed into the top of a heavy bag that was standing there, already nearly full. Into the envelope he slipped his golden ring and its fine chain and then sealed it and addressed it to Frodo. At first he put it on the mantelpiece, but suddenly he removed it and stuck it in his pocket. At that moment the door opened and Gandalf came in. "Hello," said Bilbo. "I wondered if you would turn up." "I'm glad to find you visible," replied the wizard, sitting down in a chair. "I wanted to catch you and have a few final words. I suppose you feel that everything has gone off splendidly and according to plan." "Yes, I do," said Bilbo. "Though that flash was surprising, it quite startled me, let alone the others. A little addition of your own, I suppose?" "It was," he said. "You have wisely kept the ring in secret all these years. And it seemed to me necessary to give your guests something else that would seem to explain your sudden vanishment. And it would spoil my joke. You are interfering, old busybody, but I expect you know best as usual. All right, remember the big space where we were writing important stuff? You have the front and the back, and it says important things, plot, stuff like that.
Where?
Second page. Flip it over. There's big space.
Big. Oh, that?
I don't care what big space you write in right now.
Wow.
Right here.
The rings, like the big important
Stop.
thing.
Not yet,
Right here.
because we don't know. Not yet.
Right here.
Yes, right there. So what you're going to basically write is, what you need to take note of is that there was a big flash of light.
What's that the meaning of them?
You'll see.
Big.
There's a big flash of light. When he put on the ring, there's a big flash of light. What was that big flash of light from? Who did that? Gandalf did it. Okay, so when he disappeared, there was a big poof. So the other hobbits would think it was some brilliant thing, right?
Who put on the ring?
So when he put on the ring. So when Bilbo put on the ring, poof, Gandalf made this flash of light. Because we're going to be looking for similarities and differences in the movie. So, What?
Was Gandalf that wizard?
Gandalf is the wizard, yes.
I've seen one of them.
Isn't his full name
Actually,
is
seen
Gandalf the Grey?
Gandalf the Grey is his full name.
The Gray.
Right now it's Gandalf the Grey.
Gandalf.
So, he said, I do, when I know anything, but I don't feel too sure about this whole affair. It has now come to the final point, and you have had your joke and alarmed or offended most of your relations. And given the whole Shire something to talk about for 9 days, or 99 more likely, are you going any farther? Yes, I am. I feel I need a holiday, a very long holiday. As I told you before, probably a permanent holiday. I don't expect that I shall return. In fact, I don't mean to, and I have made all the arrangements. What's a holiday again? Vacation. I am old Gandalf. I don't look at it, but I am beginning to feel it in my heart of hearts. Well preserved indeed, he snorted. Why, I feel all thin, sort of stretched, if you know what I mean, like butter that has been scraped over too much bread. That can't be right. I need a change or something. Gandalf looked curiously and closely at him. No, it does not seem right, he said thoughtfully. No, after all, I believe your plan is probably the best. Well, I've made up my mind anyway. I want to see the mountains again, Gandalf, mountains, and then find somewhere where I can rest, in peace and quiet without a lot of relatives prying around and a string of confounded visitors hanging on the bell. I might find somewhere where I could finish my book. I have thought of a nice ending for it. And he lived happily ever after to the end of his days. Gandalf laughed. I hope he will, but nobody will read the book however it ends. Oh, they may in years to come. Frodo has read some already as far as it has gone. You'll keep an eye on Frodo, won't you? Yes, I will. 2 eyes, and as often as I can spare them. He would come with me, of course, if I asked him. In fact, he offered to once, just before the party, but he does not really want to. And I want to see the wild country again before I die, and the mountains, but he is still in love with the Shire, with the woods and fields and little rivers. He ought to be comfortable here. I am leaving everything to him, of course, except a few oddments. I hope he will be happy when he gets used to being on his own. It's time he was his own master now. All right, so go to the part where you have setting, which should be on the back side. Look where it says setting, yes. Okay, so the top says setting. What did it say the Shire looked like? They just said what the Shire looked like. There are mountains and rivers and woods, so maybe you should write those words under setting.
Mountains.
No, he said he wants to see mountains.
Yeah, that's what I'm put. That's mountains.
No, but there's not mountains in the Shire.
Oh my goodness.
Woods, fields, and little rivers. So you should be writing the words woods, fields, and little rivers under setting, because that's what the Shire looks like.
I don't think it's
Where we're at?
On setting.
in the
Right here.
woods, fields,
Yeah,
and little
there's fine.
rivers. Yeah.
Doesn't matter where.
Yeah, nope, up there along
Wait.
with setting. Mm-hmm.
Can we just put streams instead of little rivers?
Sure, if you want to. So they're in the Shire. The Shire is kind of like countryside, right?
I guess.
So what do we think made him disappear? If you already have seen the movie, don't spoil it, but what do you think made him disappear?
The ring.
The ring made him disappear. Why do you think that he is not aging?
Because it's so dang old.
Because he has a hold of the ring, right? It
Right.
seems like that's what he's saying. He's basically saying, I don't feel good. I'm stretched way too thin. I don't feel good. I need a rest. So, you're leaving everything to Frodo, said Gandalf. The ring as well. You agreed to that, you remember. Well, yes, I suppose so, stammered Bilbo. Where is it? Well, in an envelope, if you must know, said Bilbo. They're on the mantelpiece. Well, no, it's here in my pocket, he hesitated. Isn't that odd now, he said softly to himself. Yet after all, why not? Why shouldn't it stay here? Gandalf looked again and very hard at Bilbo, and there was a gleam in his eyes. I think, Bilbo, he said, I should leave it behind. Don't you want to? Well, yes and no. Now it comes to it, I don't like parting with it, I may say, and I don't really see why I should. Why do you want me to? He asked, and a curious change came over his face. It was sharp and suspicion and annoyance. You are always badgering me about my ring, but you've never bothered about the other things that I got on my journey. No, but I had to badger you, said Gandalf. I wanted the truth. It was important. Magic rings are, well, magical, and they're rare and curious. I was professionally interested in your ring, you must say, and I still am. I should like to know where it is if you go wandering again. And also I think you have had it quite long enough. You won't need it anymore, Bilbo, unless I'm quite mistaken. Hold on.
Let me say it's not recording.
Nope. I'm just making sure that it doesn't. Nope, we're good.
So is there people watching you?
Not yet. Yes, Gandalf, but there is no need to get angry. Bilbo flushed, and then there was another angry light in his eyes. His kindly face grew very hard. Why not? What business is it of yours to know what I do with my own things? It's mine. I found it. It came to me. If I am angry, it's your fault. It's mine, I tell you, my own, my precious. Yes, my precious. No, I can't make the voice, by the way. The wizard's face remained grave and attentive. There you
You
go.
want me to do it?
Sure, you go ahead.
My friend.
There you go. The wizard's face remained grave and attentive, and only a flicker in his deep eyes showed that he was startled and indeed alarmed. It has been called that before, he said, but not by you. But I say it now, and why not? Even if Gollum said the same thing once. It's not his, it's mine now, and I shall keep it, I say. Gandalf stood up. He spoke sternly. You will be a fool if you do, Bilbo, he said. You make that clear with every word you say. It has got far too much hold on you. Let it go, and then you can go yourself and be free. I'll do as I please, and I'll go as I please, said Bilbo obstinately. Now, my dear hobbit, said Gandalf. All your long life we have been friends, and you owe me something. Come, do as you promised. Give it up. Gandalf's eyes flashed. It will be my turn to get angry soon, he said. If you say that again, I shall. Then you shall see Gandalf the Grey uncloaked. He took a step toward the hobbit, and he seemed to grow tall and menacing, his shadow filling the room. Bilbo backed away to the wall, breathing hard, his hand clutching at the pocket. They stood for a while facing one another, and the air of the room tingled. Gandalf's eyes remained bent on the hobbit. Slowly his hands relaxed, and he began to tremble. All right, if you're this size and Gandalf's a big old tall dude, is he going to be pretty scary if he gets mad and is standing over you?
Yeah.
Like 7
Probably. So what can you tell from this ring so far? What does it do?
It makes you not age.
It makes you giant.
It makes you not age, right?
And it apparently makes you very tall.
Right, so yeah, it makes you kind of,
Something.
so, well, Frodo doesn't have the ring. Go down and look at your study questions. It's the third one down.
What time period is the largest is that? That one.
No, that's the setting. Go way, way down here.
Oh, study?
Way down here on the study questions at the bottom. Where it says, what is special about the ring Frodo has? What's special about the ring? Doesn't make you age, right? So no aging.
Wait, which question is that?
The third one down. Look, yeah, keep on the bottom. There you
There is no aging.
go. They don't age, right?
Where do I put that?
Or don't, on the third one down. And then
1, 2.
it can make you disappear.
What is the special one? What?
It makes you disappear, right? He disappeared.
It makes you disappear and reappear.
Yeah, you can, when you put it on, it makes you disappear. The next one down says, what do you notice about it that's strange?
It makes Gandalf not age. That's strange.
Well, it does. It makes whoever has it, it changes their personality, right?
Also,
Makes
it
them greedy.
changes their-
Makes them greedy. That's fantastic.
So is that what we put? Makes us
That's a great thing to
strange?
put down there, yes. So what's strange about the ring is that whoever has it, whoever holds it, starts changing them. It makes them greedy. You can't have it. Because remember, he put it on the mantelpiece and all of a sudden, boom, it's back in his pocket.
So what's strange about it?
It changes your personality. It makes
The
you
ring's
greedy.
attached to it.
Yes,
It's
it,
attached to it.
yes, it makes it attached to whoever has
I
it.
played the video thing with the
And then whenever you give it to somebody else, it's attached to it.
So basically the ring that he has, what's special about it is it changes you. Whoever has it, it changes them.
Makes them greedy and it's attached to it.
Yeah. Because what did Gandalf say? He said, it's been called that before, that my precious, but not by you. Right? So somebody else. So whoever has it really doesn't want to let go of it. See. I don't know what's come over you, Gandalf, he said. You have never been like this before. What is this all about? It is mine, isn't it? I found it and Gollum would have killed me if I hadn't kept it. I'm not a thief, whatever he said. I have never called you one, Gandalf answered, and I'm not one either. I am not trying to rob you, but to help you. I wish you would trust me as you used to. He turned away and the shadow passed. He seemed to dwindle again into an old gray man, bent and troubled. Bilbo drew his hand over his eyes. I'm sorry, he said, but I felt so weird, and yet it would be a relief in a way not to be bothered with it anymore. It has been so growing on my mind lately. Sometimes I have felt like it was an eye looking at me, and I'm always wanting to put it on in despair, don't you know, or wondering if it's safe and pulling it out to make sure. I tried locking it up, but I found I couldn't resist without it in my pocket. I don't know why, and I don't seem to be able to make up my mind. Then trust me, said Gandalf, it is quite made up. Go away and leave it behind. Stop possessing it. Give it to Frodo, and I will look after him. Bilbo stood for a moment, tense and undecided. Presently he sighed. All right, he said. I will. Then he shrugged his shoulders and smiled rather ruefully. After all, that's what this party business is all about, really. To give away lots of birthday presents and somehow make it easier to give it away at the same time. It hasn't made it any easier in the end, but it would be a pity to waste all of my preparations. It would really quite spoil the joke. Indeed, it would take away the only point I ever saw in the affair, said Gandalf. Very well, said Bilbo. It goes to Frodo with all the rest. He drew a deep breath. And now I really must be starting, or somebody else will catch me. I have said goodbye, and I can't bear to do it all over again. He picked up his bag, and he moved to the door. You have still got the ring in your pocket, said the wizard. Well, so I have, cried Bilbo, and my will and all the other documents too. You'd better take it and deliver it for me. That will be the safest. No, don't give the ring to me, said Gandalf. Put it on the mantelpiece. It will be safe enough there till Frodo comes. I shall wait for him. And Bilbo took out the envelope, but just as he was about to set it by the clock, his hand jerked back, and the packet fell on the floor. Before he could pick it up, the wizard stooped and seized it and set it in his place. A spasm of anger passed swiftly over the hobbit's face again. Suddenly it gave way to a look of relief and a laugh. Well, that's it, he said. Now I'm off. All right, so why do you think, if the ring makes you invisible, if it makes you not age, and it has the power to change you, why do you think Gandalf won't take it? What could happen if Gandalf took the ring?
Because that might
doesn't want to be like that.
Right, so if you have a wizard that's got kind of an evil spirit, what do you think that could do?
It can make him
Destroy the whole
angry.
world.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty, is
You
it?
go, bye-bye.
Yeah. They went out into the hall. Bilbo chose his favorite stick from the stand, then he whistled. 3 dwarves came out of different rooms where they had been busy. Is everything ready? Asked Bilbo. Everything packed and labeled? Everything, they answered. Remember how I said we needed to make note that the dwarves are there? If you don't already have that written down, you probably need to.
You want to write the same place you put the...
Yep,
there was a
same big spot. Did you already
flashlight.
write down that the dwarves were there?
Dwarves? There were dwarves.
There were dwarves there, yes.
There...
Everything's ready, they answered. Well, let's start then. He stepped out of the front door. It's a fine night, and the black sky was dotted with stars. He looked up, sniffing the air. What fun! What fun to be off again on the road with dwarves. This is what I really have been longing for years. Goodbye, he said, looking at his home and bowing to the door. Goodbye, Gandalf. Goodbye for present, Bilbo. Take care of yourself. You're old enough or perhaps wise enough. Take care. I don't care. Don't worry about me. I am as happy now as I have ever been, and that's saying a great deal. By the time has come, I am being swept off my feet, he said, and then in a low voice, as if to sing to himself, he sang softly. The road goes ever on, down from the door where it has begun. Now far ahead the road is gone, and I must follow if I can, pursuing it with eager feet until it joins some larger way where many pass and errands meet, and whither then I cannot say. He paused for a moment. Then without another word, he turned away from the lights and the voices in the field and tent, and followed by his 3 companions, went around to his garden and trotted down the long sloping path. He jumped over a low place in the hedge in the bottom, and took to the meadows, passing into the night like a rustle of wind and grass. Gandalf remained for a while, staring after him in the darkness. Goodbye, my dear Bilbo, until our next meeting, he said softly, and went back indoors. Frodo came in soon afterwards, and found him sitting in the dark, deep in thought. Has he gone? He asked. Yes, said Gandalf, he has gone at last. I hoped until this evening that it was only a joke, but I knew in my heart that he really wanted to go. He always used to joke about serious things. I wish I had come back sooner just to see him off. I think he had preferred slipping off quietly in the inn, said Gandalf. Don't be too troubled. He'll be all right now. He left a packet for you. There it is. Frodo took the envelope from the mantelpiece and glanced at it, but did not open it. You'll find his will and all the other documents in there, I think, said the wizard. You are master of Bag End now, and also I fancy you'll find a golden ring. The ring, exclaimed Frodo. Has he left that to me? I wonder why. Still, it may be useful. It may and it may not, said Gandalf. I should not make use of it if I were you. I'd keep it secret and safe. Now I'm going to bed. As master of Bag End, Frodo felt that his painful duty to say goodbye to the guests. Rumors of strange events had by now spread all over the field, but Frodo would say, no doubt everything will be cleared up in the morning. About midnight, carriages came for the important folk. One by one they rolled away, filled with full but unsatisfied hobbits. Gardeners came by arrangement and removed in wheelbarrows those that had inadvertently remained behind. So night passed slowly, and then the sun rose. The hobbits rose rather later. Morning went on. People came and began, by orders, to clear away the pavilions and the tables and the chairs, and the spoons and knives and bottles and plates and lanterns and the flowering shrubs and boxes, and the crumbs and cracker paper, the forgotten bags and gloves and handkerchiefs and the uneaten food, a very small item, by the way. Then a number of the other people without orders, Bagginses and Boffins and Bulgers and Tooks and other guests that lived or were staying near by midday, when even the best fed were out and about again, there was a large crowd at Bag End, uninvited but not unexpected. Frodo was waiting on the steps, smiling, but looking rather tired and worried. He welcomed all the callers, but he had not much more to say than before. His reply to all the inquiries was such as, "Mr. Bilbo Baggins has gone away, as far as I know, for good." Some of the visitors had invited to come inside, as Bilbo had left messages for them. Inside in the hall, there was piled a large assortment of packages and parcels and small articles of furniture. On every item there was a label tied. There were several labels of this sort. For Adelard took, for his very own from Bilbo. On an umbrella, Adelard carried off many unlabeled ones. For Dora Baggins, in memory of a long correspondence with love from Bilbo, on a large waste paper basket. Dora was Drogo's sister and the eldest surviving female relative of Bilbo and Frodo. She was 99 and had written reams of good advice for more than half a century. Okay, so what did you catch? What was funny about that? This girl has been giving him advice, right? And sending him letters about what he should do. What did he leave to her?
Nothing.
He left her a trash can. He left her a trash can. So she's written him like hundreds of letters telling him what he should do, right? And so he left her a trash can. Here you go.
Well, I mean,
You don't have to write it down. For Milo Burrows, hoping it will be useful, from BB, on a gold pen and ink bottle. Milo never answered his letters. So the guy that never answered his letters, what did he give him? A pen and ink. Here you go. For Angelica's use, from Uncle Bilbo, on a round convex mirror. She was a young Baggins and too obviously considered her face very good looking. For the collection of Hugo Brace Girl, from a contributor, on a bookcase. Hugo was a great borrower of books and worse at returning them. For Lobelia Sackville Baggins, as a present, on a case of silver spoons. Bilbo believed that she had acquired a good many of his spoons while he was away on his former journey. Lobelia knew that quite well. When she arrived later in the day, she took the point at once, but she also took the spoons. This is only a small selection of the assembled presents. Bilbo's residence had got rather cluttered up with things in the course of his long life. It was a tendency of hobbit holes to get a little cluttered up, for which the custom of giving so many birthday presents was largely responsible. Not, of course, that the birthday presents were always new. There were one or two old mathoms of forgotten uses that had circulated all around the district. But Bilbo had usually given new presents and kept those he received. The old hole was now being cleared a little. So we talked about yesterday, what do hobbits do on their birthday?
They give presents to everybody.
They give presents instead of giving them, right? What does this say that some of those presents are?
Pens and ink.
Well, there are things that they've regifted stuff, right? You ever heard regifting? A lot of times they'd be regifted, and so some of those things have been regifted around the whole Shire, right? Just being regifted and regifted. Every one of the various parting gifts had labels written out personally by Bilbo, and several had some point or some joke. But of course, most of the things were given where they would be wanted and welcome. The poorer hobbits, and especially those of Bagshot Road, did very well. Old Gaffer Gamgee got 2 stacks of potatoes, a new spade, a woolen waistcoat, and a bottle of ointment for creaking joints. Old Rory Brandybuck, in return for such hospitality, got a dozen bottles of old Wynyards, a strong wine from the South Farthing, and not quite mature, as it had been laid down by Bilbo's father. Rory quite gave Bilbo, and voted him a capital fellow after the first bottle. There was plenty of everything left for Frodo, and of course all the chief treasures, as well as books, pictures, and more than enough furniture were left in his possession. There was, however, no sign nor mention of money or jewelry. Not a penny piece or a glass bead was given away. Frodo had a very trying time that afternoon. A false rumor that the whole household was being distributed free spread like wildfire, and before long the place was packed with people who had no business there, but could not be kept out. Labels got torn off and mixed, and quarrels broke out. Some people tried to do swaps and deals in the hall, and others tried to make off with minor items not addressed to them, or with anything that seemed unwanted or unwatched. The road to the gate was blocked with barrows and handcarts. All right, so right now we'll just kind of go over this a little bit. What's happened so far? They had the party. Party's over, right? So he was trying to will some things to people, but now everybody's coming and trying to take everything, right? So you might need to write down in your little plot space that after the party, people are trying to get stuff that's not theirs.
We do realize that Frodo's still loving them and everything's his, right?
Yeah, so basically what happened is he said, I'm going to leave everything to Frodo except for a few things. Like he gave the one girl a trash can, he gave the one guy a bunch of books because he never returned them. He gave the one guy that didn't return his letter ink. And he gave the lady who tried to steal spoons, finally just gave her the rest of the spoons. Because she already stole a bunch to begin with. And I promise you in the movie, you'll hear him talk about Lobelia Sackville Baggins in the
Where do we write that?
spoons. Under that plot, in that space. In that little space right there. As long as you have it written somewhere on the paper, you'll be all right. In the middle of the commotion, the Sackville Bagginses had arrived. Frodo had retired for a while and left his friend Merry Brandybuck to keep an eye on things. With Otho loudly demanding to see Frodo, Merry bowed politely. He is indisposed, he said. He is resting. Hiding, you mean, said Lobelia. Anyway, we want to see him, and we mean to see him right now. Just go and tell him so. Merry left them a long while in the hall, and they had time to discover the parting gift of spoons. It did not improve their tempers. Eventually, they were shown into the study. Frodo was sitting at a table with a lot of papers in front of him. He looked indisposed. To see Sackville Bagginses at any rate, and he stood up fidgeting with something in his pocket, but he spoke quite politely. The Sackville Bagginses were rather offensive. They began by offering him bad bargain prices, as between friends, for various valuable and unlabeled things. When Frodo replied that only the things specifically directed by Bilbo were being given away, they said the whole affair was very fishy. Only one thing is clear to me, said Otho, and that is that you are doing exceedingly well of it. I insist on seeing the will. Otho would have been Bilbo's heir, but for the adoption of Frodo. He read the will carefully and snorted. It was, unfortunately, very clear and correct, according to the legal customs of hobbits. Foiled again, he said to his wife, and after waiting 60 years, spoons, fiddlesticks. He snapped his fingers under Frodo's nose and stomped off. But Lobelia was not so easily gotten rid of. A little later, Frodo came out of the study to see how things were going and found her still about the place, investigating nooks and crannies and tapping the floors. He escorted her firmly off the premises after he had relieved her of several small but rather valuable articles that had somehow fallen inside her umbrella. Her face looked as if she was in the throes of thinking out and a really crushing parting remark, but all she found to say, turning around on the step, was, "You'll live to regret it, young fellow. Why didn't you go too? You don't belong here. You're no Baggins. You're a Brandybuck." "Did you hear that, Merry? That was an insult, if you like," said Frodo as he shut the door. "It was a compliment," said Merry Brandybuck, "and so, of course, not true." All right, so who do we just hear about? Merry. Okay, I want you to know, what is Merry doing the first time we hear about him? It's a guy. I know 7th grade had a problem with it too. It is a guy. It is not his full name. But that's what they call him for short. Merry, like M-E-R-R-Y, like Merry Christmas. What's he doing? Yeah, no, not that kind of Merry. But what's he doing? What are they doing? What's he helping him with?
Trying to leave him alone.
He's helping him with the people showing up at he's helping him with the crowd, right?
He's helping him with all the fans.
Right. So Merry is now helping him with the crowd. So you need to probably write that part down.
Where?
Anywhere under that big box. And if you run out of room, go down to the bottom. So Mary's helping him at the house. Okay, they went round the hole.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Mary, it's okay. Mary is helping him around the house. He's helping him with all the relatives.
And where did I write that?
You know what, Shelby? Wherever there's a big space for you to write, don't make it hard. And you can write it on the front page where it says Mary too. That's fine.
So Mary is helping.
Yeah, Mary is helping. And he's not offended, right? She's trying to offend him by saying, well, you're not a Baggins, you're just a Brandybuck, which is Mary's last name. And he's like, I don't care. Good job. So, they went around the hole and evicted 3 young hobbits, 2 boffins and a Balger, who were knocking holes in the walls of one of the cellars. Frodo also had a tussle with a young Sancho Proudfoot, old Proudfoot's grandson, who had begun an excavation in the larger pantry where he thought there was an echo. The legend of Bilbo's gold excited both curiosity and hope, for legendary gold, mysteriously obtained of course, is, as everyone knows, anyone's for the finding unless the search is interrupted. When he had overcome Sancho and pushed him out, Frodo collapsed on a chair in the hall. It's time to close shop, Mary, he said. Lock the door and don't open it to anyone today, not even if they bring a battering ram. What is a battering ram?
I have no clue.
SWAT, boom.
The big old log they use to knock doors open with. Then he went to relieve himself with a belated cup of tea. He had hardly sat down when there was a soft knock at the front door. Lobelia again, most likely, he said. She must have thought of something really nasty and have come back again to say it. I can't wait. He went on with his tea. The knock was repeated, much louder, but he took no notice. Suddenly the wizard's head appeared in the window. "If you don't let me in, Frodo, I shall blow your door right down through your hole and out the hall." "My dear Gandalf, half a minute," said Frodo. Come in, I thought it was Lobelia." "Then I forgive you," he said, "but I saw her some time ago driving a pony trap towards Bywater with a face that would have curdled new milk." So what is he saying? What expression does she have on her face?
She's ugly.
She's pretty mad, right? Yeah, and she's ugly is not wrong. So, don't do that, said Gandalf. Do be careful with that ring, Frodo. In fact, it's partly about that I have come to say a last word. Well, what about it? What do you know already? Only what Bilbo told me. I have heard his story, how he found it, and how he used it on his journey, I mean. Which story, I wonder, said Gandalf. Oh, not that he told the old dwarves and put it in his book, and he told me the true story soon after I came to live here. He said you had pestered him till he told you, so I'd better know too. No secrets between us, Frodo, he said, but they are not going to go any further. It's mine anyway. That's interesting, said Gandalf. Well, what did you think of it all? If you mean inventing all that about a present, well, I thought the true story much more likely, and I couldn't see the point of altering it at all. It was very unlike Bilbo to do so anyway, and I thought it rather odd. So did I, but odd things may happen to people that have such treasures, if they may use them. Let it be a warning to you to be very careful with it. It may have other powers than just making you vanish when you wish to. I don't understand, said Frodo. Neither do I, said the wizard. I have merely begun to wonder about the ring, especially since last night. No need to worry, but if you take my advice, you will use it very seldom or not at all. At least I beg you not to use it in any secret that will cause talk or rouse suspicion. I say, keep it safe and keep it secret. You are very mysterious. What are you afraid of? I'm not afraid of anything, and I'm not really certain, so I will say no more. I may be able to tell you something when I come back. I'm going off at once. This goodbye for the present, he said. At once, cried Frodo. Why, I thought you were staying on for at least a week. I was looking forward to your help. I didn't mean to, but I have to change my mind. I may be away for a good while, but I'll come and see you again as soon as I can. Expect me when you see me. I shall slip in quietly. I shan't often be visiting the Shire openly again. I find that I've become rather unpopular. They say I'm a nuisance and a disturber of the peace. Some people are actually accusing me of spiriting Bilbo away, or worse. If you want to know, there is supposed to be a plot between you and me to get a hold of his wealth. Some people, said Frodo. You mean Otho and Lobelia. How abominable. I would give them Baggin and everything else if I could get Bilbo back and go trampling off in the country with him. I love the Shire, but I begin to wish, anyhow, that I had gone too. I wonder if I shall ever see him again. So do I, said Gandalf, and I wonder many things. Goodbye now, though. Take care of yourself. Look out for me, especially at unlikely times. Frodo saw him at the door. He gave a final wave of his hand and walked off at a surprising pace, but Frodo thought the old wizard looked unusually bent, almost as if he was carrying a great weight. The evening was closing in, and his cloaked figure quickly vanished into twilight. Frodo did not see him again for a long time. All right, so flip it over to the front where it says Mary. All right, so number one, Mary. Got number one. We don't know a whole lot about Mary yet, right? No, but what does he think is funny?
She-R-R-Y.
Yeah, it is spelled M-E-R-R-Y, I promise you. So he got insulted and he thought it's funny. So what does that kind of tell you about him, maybe? Yes, right there.
He has a sense of humor.
He does have a sense of humor, right?
He don't care.
Yeah, not a lot bothers him, right? It's
What are we
pretty
talking about?
What are we
Mary.
done
Talking
reading?
about the Mary. Talking about him. So he got insulted. The lady insulted him, right? She was like, ugh, you're a brandy buck. And he's like, I don't care. So that tells you he's kind of takes it easy. So make sure you write something about Mary being kind of chill.
When am I done reading?
In a little bit. I don't know. What does the time say? You're close.
33 minutes.
What?
33 minutes.
Okay, so you're just a little bit. So write down something about him being pretty chill, and he's got a sense of humor, right? That's all you know about him so far. Anything we can really tell about Frodo right now?
No.
And there's not really a whole lot about him,
No.
other than he can be kind of serious, right? He's kind of. What does Frodo say he wants to do? He wished he did. What did he just say? He's like, I wish I had
The ring.
He wished he had gone with them. All right, he said he wished he'd gone with them. I really wish I'd gone too. I like the Shire, but wow, this is kind of boring. So what did we say the Shire was, though? A lot of farmers, right? All they really do all day is farm and play with animals and then eat, right?
Yeah.
All right. Shadow of the Past. This is chapter 2. The talk did not die down in 9 or even 99 days. The second disappearance of Mr. Bilbo Baggins was discussed in Hobbiton and indeed all over the Shire for a year and a day and was remembered much longer than that. It became a fireside story for young hobbits and eventually Mad Baggins, who used to vanish with a bang and a flash and reappear with bags of jewels and gold, became a favorite character of legend and lived on long after the true events were forgotten. Before we go on, what were all those people looking for in his house? You know, they were poking holes in the cellar.
Gold.
They were looking for all his supposed treasures and tunnels of gold, right? In the meantime, the general opinion in the neighborhood was that Bilbo, who had always been rather cracked, had at least gone quite mad and had run off into the blue. There he had undoubtedly fallen into a pool or a river and come to a tragic but untimely end. The blame was mostly laid on Gandalf. And remember, they don't like trouble, right? They don't like anybody who caused trouble. They just like it peaceful. It only that dratted wizard will leave young Frodo alone. Perhaps he'll settle down and grow some hobbit sense, they said. And to all appearance, the wizard did leave Frodo alone, and he did settle down. But the growth of hobbit sense was not very noticeable. Indeed, he at once began to carry on Bilbo's reputation for oddity. He refused to go into mourning, and the next year he gave a party in honor of Bilbo's 112th birthday, which he called a 100-weight fast. But that was short of the mark, for 20 guests were invited, and there were several meals at which it snowed food and rained drink, as hobbits say. Some people were rather shocked, but Frodo kept up the custom of giving Bilbo's birthday party year after year until they got used to it. He said that he did not think Bilbo was dead. When they asked, "Where is he then?" he said. He lived alone, as Bilbo had done, but he had a good many friends, especially among the younger hobbits, mostly descendants of the old Took, who had, as children, been fond of Bilbo and often in and out of Bag End. Folko Boffin and Fredegar Bolger were two of these, but his closest friends were Peregrine Took, usually called Pippin, and Merry Brandybuck. His real name was Meriadoc, but that was seldom remembered. So yes, his name is Meriadoc. I figured you didn't really want to try to spell that, but he was called Merry.
Name, jeez.
I know, right? So his real name is Meriadoc, but his name is Merry. You don't have to write that down. So who are Frodo's two best friends? You should be on the front page where it says Frodo. So I would write something about how.
What about Pippin? Or Pippin?
You don't have to write anything about him yet.
Oh.
Just on Frodo, write two best friends. If you want to take arrows from Merry and Pippin and write BFF, I'm cool with that too. Just as long as somehow you know that Merry and Pippin are his two best friends. Or two of his best friends.
So Frodo's friend is
Merry and Pippin are two of his best friends.
Frodo's
Mhm. Yeah, they're Frodo's best friends.
Wait, so where are we writing that?
So probably around Frodo.
Okay.
Does
Mhm.
that work?
Yeah, that's fine.
And really, it's about time.
Okay. So there are his two friends, and then also that Merry is his cousin. You might write down Merry is his cousin. All right, so far, has a lot of time passed or a little bit of time? Because Gandalf said he'd come back whenever, right? So how many, has it been a couple of days? Has it been a couple of months? Has it been a couple of years? How long has it been?
Several years.
It's been a lot of years, right? Because he held a couple more birthdays. All right, that is all you need on your paper for right now. I want you to bring your paper to me. Landon, you want to stop that? I'm going to crawl over there and hit stop on
Will
that.
I give you a copy of my paper?
Probably not.